Hello everyone and welcome to this homework video review for Year 5, Block 1, Week 3. And this video is going to cover the non-verbal reasoning portion of the homework. So as a reminder, all homework always starts with our online homework. From this week it's to complete the pair questions on the online homework. You'll find these here, so under the quick test section of the GL non-verbal reasoning website. A reminder, you need to go onto the CGP website to find these, and we're looking for the quick test section and complete the pair. Again, if you manage to get a star on these, well done, but please don't be disheartened if to start with the scores were a little bit lower. We are going to be revisiting these throughout the year, and we want to give you some real sort of in-context practice, so then you'll start to see as you work through these. We're getting lots of reports from people saying, oh yeah, I'm starting to see the patterns, I'm looking for things, the Spanstros is coming in handy. And on that note, just a quick reminder, I do have here a copy of the Spanstros words again. I know I say this every week, and I'm probably going to keep saying it for the remainder of the block, but please do make a good effort to learn your mnemonic, learn Spanstros, and then utilise them in the questions as you go through. Look for shape, position, angle, number, size. It makes things so much easier when you have a really clear idea of what it is you're aiming for, what the words mean, and how to find them. I'm sure it makes things a lot easier. So that's a recap of the homework. And again, if you're still not logging in, if you've got any issues at this point, please make sure you're talking to your tutor or talking to the office so you can get online and get involved with answering these questions. Really, really important. So the majority of the homework in this video is going to be going through the CGP book. This is the non-verbal reasoning one, the orange one, and we'll be going through these pages, so 28, 29, 44 to 45, and 54 to 55. Let's have a look at it. So, this one here, your CGP non-verbal reasoning, and to start with, I'm just going to talk through the example, just highlight some things that are going on with this. So obviously, it's a complete the pair question type. The important thing, and I think this is actually quite nice to have some words, or a way to sort of put this into a sentence, this arrow, you can almost read, is changed into. So this circle is changed into this circle. And then here, our dot dot means, so in the same way, this square is changed into which square? And of course, these are our options. But I think sometimes for some people it just helps us better have that way of phrasing it. So this circle is changing to this circle, as the same way this square is changing into, and in this case, of course, you can see that the circle is getting larger and becoming dotty. So we want a larger square that is dotty, and that's why our answer is E. And you'll notice as I went through, as I was considering each of the options, I was of course eliminating them. This is a perfect question type where you can use the elimination, where you can work through and get rid of ones that don't match out. Just be aware, this is obviously a nice simple one where there are only 2 things changing. You can have questions where there are 3 or 4 things changing each time. Again, my method would still be the same. So to really break down, imagining this was a really hard question, I would initially look at maybe the shape change and say, well, it's getting larger. I would go through and eliminate all the options that haven't gotten larger. So obviously the first one, the circle and the shape D. Then identify the outer shape and eliminate all the ones that haven't changed with the line shading. And I think that approach is a really sort of foolproof way of doing it, and it's going to hopefully give you one clear answer and avoid you getting confused. But again, just being able to phrase it I think is really useful. And what's interesting, there are actually verbal reasoning questions that work in the same way, where they say this word is linked to that word in the same way as this word is linked to that. And again, being able to put it into a sentence I think is really, really useful. So there's a small hint and tip before starting. If you've already done this, we're going to move on now to the questions, but if you've not had a chance to look through the homework, perhaps you want to pause here before I start jumping in and spoiling some of the questions. On now then to the first page. This is the first page, page 28. We're looking at number 1, and you can see that the shape is changing direction. So I'm going to notice the top end of this parallelogram is pointing in a different direction, so it's been reflected. Something I will sometimes do is I will then draw a dotted line down. That's often like to represent a reflection line, so I would say this shape has been reflected over, but also the shape, as well as being reflected, has changed colour. So I'm looking for a reflection. What I might do in this case as well, there's obviously we talked about already eliminating, I might draw myself a little sketch. I might sort of offset the reply, what I think it looks like up here. So there's that line being reflected. There's my shape. It seems to be changing corners, so it's bottom left and now it's going to be the bottom right. But also I think it gone from black to white. So I want an answer that looks something like this. And that's going to make it really easy now that I've got my sketch to say, well, no, not that one, not that one, not that one, not this one. It must therefore be E. So if you want to as well, sketching out certain features can make it quite speedy. And actually, probably if I was sketching, I might then just jump straight to saying, well, look, that's an obvious match. And when I say sketching, I've had some students ask me in the past as well, I'm not very good at art, I don't like drawing. I hope you can see that I'm certainly no artistic savant either. And so don't worry if you're a great artist, a sketch just needs to be good enough, clear enough. And normally the solution I would suggest that fixes even the worst drawings, if you just make them a little bit bigger, that gives you an opportunity opportunity for whatever it is you're drawing to be clearer. So nice big bold sketch can often help as well. So number 2, it was pointing up and is now pointing down, so I need a star pointing down, so immediately that eliminates all but the last 2. Also the line shading is going from a gentle dot to a filled in line, so I think I want to have our dots to a filled in line, which is why it's option B, not E. Next page. I can see that the line shading within my circle is changing. Again, I'm going to do my little 2-line trick where I can just sort of see what's going on. So this one needs to be like this. And if I look above C, it's the same shape, but it's pointing to the top right rather than the top left. Number 4, I've got this exact same shape in the exact same location, but I'm splitting it up into these little triangles, and that to me just jumps out straight as being B. So no elimination necessary, that one, it jumps straight out to me, and if that's the case for you as well, that's absolutely fine. 5, we've got 2 things pointing downwards that end up pointing upwards, so I want both of these to be pointing downwards, so that eliminates these 2 options already. And then I'm also noticing that the colour has swapped, so it was the white at the top, black at the bottom, and that's swapped. So now I want to have black at the top, white at the bottom, which is going to eliminate both of them because E doesn't even have the white circle. 6, we've got our shape pointing at the top right to the bottom left. So in this one, I'm going to want to have my arrow in the top right being at the bottom left. Well, that's not bottom left, that's not bottom left, that's not bottom left, that's not bottom left. Now, there's obviously a direction element here with the arrow that we haven't even had to consider, but again, that's the power of eliminating. It was this white one pointing that way and now pointing that way, so yeah, we can see that they are flipping around, but just by noticing the position of where the arrow is supposed to appear down in this corner, it let me eliminate all the options, and that's partly what I mean about how useful elimination is for speeding you along, because once you've only got one option left, you can be pretty confident that's the right answer. Right, this is a distinguishing feature here, and it ends up being rotated to point vertically. So I want this one to be rotated 90 degrees, so I think it's going to look something like this from my sketch, and that matches clearly with E, so yeah, I'm confident. Right, we've got the black shape at the top stays at the top, so I'm expecting a star at the top, so let's get rid of the 2 that don't have stars at the top. I'm then noticing that my bottom shape has become the next one down, so I want this sort of strange lollipop arrow to be the next one down. It could be A, could be the... Oh, okay, well, what I've noticed is between A, C, and D, it's the direction of this lollipop. It's going to give me some clues. So the arrow was pointing vertically, now it's pointing down. So if this white arrow is pointing up, it should become pointing down, so that eliminates A. And then last thing, the triangle stays in the same place. Oh, and look here, I don't have my rectangle in the same place. And D, sorry, I should have already eliminated the wrong colour anyway. So that leaves C is the clear contender, the clear answer. That's good. On then to number 9. Right, so it looks to me as though the large outside oval has become the little inside shape. So I think I want to have a little 7-sided shape inside. So that's not A, that's not B, that's not D. And actually the line shading stay the same, so it's not E either. So there you go. C is my answer just based on spotting that. It does also appear as though the inside shape has become the outside, which is why it's also in the white triangle, but sorry, the right arrow, but we didn't even need it for 9. That's always good. Oh, for number 10, yeah, definitely going to do my little trick. So it's top right on the inside shape, then pointing to the top left. So it looks as though the outside shape matches with what was the inside. So I want an outside shape that's pointing to top right. Well, that's not C, that's not B, that's not D, and it's not E. So just by looking on that outside line shading there, look, with this outside one, I can see it matches what was the old interior, and yes, if I check the inside, it has also changed direction, so the inside is a different side. So A works for me. Right guys, so that's a test out of 10, so give yourself a score, and we will move on then to the next page, which is going to be 44 to 45. And again, it starts with an example, and this is an awfully similar example, so the answer is still E, so I won't run through this again because we saw that one earlier. Number 1, well, it looks to me as though my shape inside is moving down. It's not rotating, so I want to have a pentagon at the bottom, so it's not that one, not that one, and not that one. And then in terms of the colour, I think we already said it needs to be a different shade. So we've got our grey inside becomes a white inside, so a grey inside should become a white inside, so between B and D, it's not B, it must be D. So it looks as though I'm going vertical, so the arrow is pointing up, then pointing down, so I want a sort of shield shape that's pointing down. That eliminates several answers already. And then the line shading was colourless to have this sort of bottom left to top right. So that's not B, it's not C, so it must be E, because of course those are purely horizontal and vertical, not the diagonal shading we needed. Number 3. It looks as though these are rotating, or the inside is rotating around. In fact, it looks like the whole shape is rotating around. and it's rotating because that was pointing here, it's now pointing here, so actually it's rotating by 90 degrees, but also the colour is changing, or at least the colour of the square. So I think I want two black shapes, and I want the triangle, if it rotates around, to be pointing to the right. So that's not pointing to the right, that's not pointing to the right, so D is the answer. Again, notice how of the two of them, I had a triangle, a circle. I was immediately drawn to thinking about where the triangle is pointing to, because it's a lot easier to work out where the triangle is pointing than the circle. So if you ever do have shapes that are natural arrows or have natural direction to them, use them. It should make your life a lot easier, hopefully. Next page. Number 5, we've got, okay, it looks like there's some sort of reflection going on where one of the shapes disappears, because if I notice, that's almost a perfect reflection, except the star has disappeared. So I'm going to want a reflection of this, where my triangle has disappeared. So first I want to get rid of anything that has a triangle, because that's the one that's supposed to go, because it's the one that's in this position here, so that's the one that's going. And then I want that arrow is pointing left, so I want my arrow pointing to the right, so that's not B. Oh well, now we're down to C, and actually that does look like a nice reflection, where this was pointing right, this was pointing left. Yeah, happy with A, definitely the answer for 5. Number 6, we have vertical triangle lines becoming a circle, and also it looks to me as though the outer and inner shapes are swapping over. So I'm going to want to have a square inside of a hexagon. So no, that's not a hexagon, it's a pentagon. No, and no. So actually just by spotting the square and hexagon swap, we got the answer, B. Number 7. Okay, the small triangle on top is becoming a large triangle. It's in the same direction, so I think I want to have a larger shape on top. But is it the case that rather than not saying it's just changing, it looks as though we're swapping? So yeah, look, we had the big one, the big triangle on the bottom became the big triangle on top. So yeah, I think this one has been rotated 180 degrees, or it's flipped round. And then it looks to me as just the colour has changed. So what I'm going to want from this, I might do this one as a sketch. I'm going to want the large thing on the bottom, so it's almost been rotated around, so a large square with the triangle, but then what used to be black on bottom is still black on bottom, so I'm going to want to have a black shaded in triangle on the bottom, admittedly with a shape inside of it and a white square. So that has not been rotated around, that has not been rotated around, that has got the white shape on top, which it shouldn't, so now it's just between B and E, and if I look at the difference, there's going to be a big old clue. That semicircle versus that semicircle is the only difference, so I can go back and work out what should happen. It looks to me as though that triangle is pointing down. It's still pointing down, which means if this little semicircle is pointing up, it should still be pointing up, and that's the reason that B is my answer and E is not the answer. Okay, interesting. So we've got a triangle and a 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided shape, so it still works. This is just a very strange-looking pentagon, and it looks as though the larger shape becomes the outside and the smaller one becomes inside. So I've then got here a 1, 2, 3, 4-sided trapezium or square, possibly, which is going to become the inside shape, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided shape, so a hexagon for the outside. So I want a hexagon on the outside, and I want a 4-sided shape, which is the square in the centre. Jolly good. Right, on to the next one. Number 9. Well, 2 lines becomes 1 line. So let's just cross out anything that doesn't have the 1 line. Also, overlap. If you look, the white shape, well, I should say really, the square was on top, which is the white shape. So it looks as though the white shape needs to always be on top, or at least the shape that is behind becomes the one that's on top. So that means I'm going to want here, it used to be the triangle behind, so now it's the triangle's turn to be on top. So I can eliminate the ones that have the triangle on top. And then also, in terms of the colour, it is always the white shape that is on top. Oh no, actually, because in this one, look, this starts, with the grey shape on top. So it's going to continue to be the grey shape on top. I think that's the important thing. So we need the one that's got the grey on top, and that is shape A. Right, I'm with it. So A is the answer, because it's the right number of lines, and whichever colour was on top is the colour that stays on top. That's, I think, the better way of saying it for number 9. Right, well, for number 10, first, I can see already, I've got what looks to me like a little sad face becoming a happy face. There's no harm in adding a couple googly eyes, it helps get the answer. So I want to start with a smiley face and end up with a sad face. So that eliminates immediately A and B. Well, there's a sad face and there's a sad face. So I've eliminated 3 of them already just by noticing the up and down. What else am I noticing? Well, it seems as though that for the top shading, it's just rotating. Oh, no, let's do it better. So it's going horizontal and vertical. So the top seems to be rotating 90 degrees. So if the top of this is pointing to the top right, it should end up pointing to the top left. Does that let me eliminate this one? It does, because it's still pointing to the top left, so C has not flipped around to point in the direction that it should. And also it looks as though just on the bottom cross-hatching is happening, which is happening in E as well, which is jolly good. So that makes me confident that E is the correct answer for number 10. On then to test 4, this is on pages 54 and 55, so it's still just another attestment test, and it is still the incomplete the pair, and so the answer to this practice question is still E, so I think with that we can jump into the questions. So our outside triangle is becoming an inside triangle, which means this outside shield needs to become a smaller inside shield. So something like that, which will eliminate this one and this one. And actually looking at it, the dotty shading outside becomes the dotty shading inside, so I want to keep the outside shading my new inside. So I want a solid line which eliminates B and E, leaving me with D as my answer. Right, looking here, we've got 6 black dots becomes 6 black dots, and 1 horizontal becomes 1 horizontal, so I think it looks like we're keeping the same number, which means I want to keep my 1 horizontal dot, so we can get rid of B. That means I think I also want to have 2 grey dots and 4 black dots. That's got too many black dots, that's not got enough grey dots, but D has got the 4 black dots and the 2 grey and the 1 horizontal, so I think that is my answer. Number 3, it looks as though the ring that is shaded has swapped, but also we've gone from horizontal to vertical. So here I want to have horizontal and vertical on the bottom, so that's not got it, that's not got it, that's not got it, and that's not got it, so B is my answer. For number 4, it looks as though we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided shape, becoming a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided shape. So it looks like my pentagon, my 5-sided shape, needs to end up being 5 sides. If I cross out all the ones now, 5 sides, B is the only pentagon, so number 4 must be B. Looking at number 5, it seems as though this arrow is rotating 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So if I was to rotate the same shape, I would have a sketch that would be going here, that would be pointing up. So the sketch is for the outside sort of triangle would look something akin to this. That doesn't really help me with the eliminating. But we can now look at the line angles, so that was pointing this way, and now this way. So yeah, it looks as if the shape inside is rotating with it. So this is going to rotate around like this, and that does let me eliminate a few of the options. So I think that lets me eliminate A and D for sure. And in terms of the arrows, it seems as though the arrows are exactly the same. So I don't think, for example, we want to have, if these are outside facing, I don't want to have anything different for B. I don't have anything different from E if you look, that's missing one of the arrows. And then B had the arrow sort of pointing inwards. So C must be the answer for number 5. Looking at 6, I can see that we're changing our line shading. So the 2 lines seem to be rotating around, and the arrows seem to be pointing to the left in the same sort of direction. So if we twist our circle, and actually if you look, that's what you can almost describe that as a rotation. So that's rotated 45 degrees. So if we do something similar here, these 2 lines are going to end up being pointing vertically, and this one horizontal line is going to end up going in this direction. So I think that's the shading inside my circle. So let's do some eliminating. I think that eliminates B, A and B, C and D. Oh no, so C is a bit sneaky, not quite right either. D looks okay. And actually that already then gets me my answer, because I don't think E is right either. We could just quickly check the lines. These ones seem to also have tilted. They were pointing up, now they're left. These are pointing down, now they've gone round. So I think D is also doing the same trick there. And also if you look at the line shading, or the shading side of the circle has changed as well. But yeah, I think just based on working out what's going on with the circle, you get straight to your answer. It's always nice when that happens. Okay, so it seems as though we're going from a 4-sided shape to a 3-sided shape. Interesting change. Have we got that shape from cutting it in half, possibly? So that might be one, because obviously here we can't have a 3-sided shape go down to a 2-sided shape, so that's kind of my clue that we needed to look for something else. So my 4-sided shape perhaps was cut in half to make the triangle, and then the inside shape shading is what became the outside shape shading. So I think we're looking for half of this triangle, which will eliminate these options. And then we want the shading from the inner circle, which means it's option E instead of option A. I think that's probably it. Right, looking at 8, it seems as though this star has moved around to the right, and this star has moved around to the left, so that looks like we're rotating our shape clockwise. So let's do something here. We're going to have our black star on the right hand side. So let's eliminate all the ones that don't have a black star on the right hand side. Oh, well, that makes this a little bit easier to spot, because there's only sort of 2 potential options. But if you look, that star is supposed to have 6 sides. That star doesn't have 6 sides, it's got 5, so it can't be that. And none of the others have the black star in the right place. So that was a very simple sketch, just focusing on sort of one feature and how it would rotate round. And again, let me eliminate all the options. It's really fun when that happens. It speeds things along quite nicely. Okay, so we've got 2 stars, which become sort of the 2 inner shapes. So it looks as though the top one is the black one that becomes the outside, and the bottom one is the grey one that becomes the inner shape. And you've got your middle shape appears in the top left, and your outer shape that appears in the top right. So I think based on that, we're going to need to have the outer shape is a circle, so we should have a circle on the right. The inner shape is a triangle, and if you look at that, the sort of the ring, if this was a Saturn-like ring, it's swapped. So if this triangle is going to be on the top left corner, it also has changed direction. So actually drawing that, it needs to be pointing upwards. So let's see if we can eliminate anything based on that. Well, A is pointing in the wrong direction. C has got the circle in the wrong place. These are okay. Sorry, no, D's not okay because the triangle is pointing down. So now already I'm just down to 2 options. And I think it's just about working what should the interior be. So should it be a circle on the inside or a triangle on the inside? I think I know the answer because it was this shape that became the inside. So it's this circle here, sorry, this shape here that became the inside. So I think we want to have a circle on the inside. So B is my answer, not E. And then for 10, we've got the shape inside the circle disappearing and being replaced by the shape outside. But if you look, the direction of the line shading is also swapping. So I think we want to lose our inner shape, gain the shading on the circle inside, but also actually if you look, the circle was on top, stays on top, so I think we can immediately get rid of these 2 because the triangle is in the wrong place. We want the shading to be similar to this but rotated, so I think we're looking for shading in this direction. So A doesn't have the right kind of shading anyway, and between C and D, this is the one that matches what we're expecting. If you look, this one hasn't changed what's there, and these ones are definitely changing, so I think that means my answer is C. Alright everybody, well done. Please make sure, of course, to record your scores out of 10. Make sure you sticker up your books just so you can inform your tutors and let you know how it's gotten on. And that's the end of this video. Of course, there is another verbal reasoning video that you may have already watched, but if not, that's something for you to keep an eye out for. Otherwise, thank you so much for your attention, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye bye for now.